Hi everybody, welcome to Inspire My Golf. I'm Tom Denby. Now today we are going to look at two hybrid sets of irons. We've got a good comparison for you. We've got the Cleveland HB launchers versus the Cobra T-Rails. I love hybrids. I'm so happy more manufacturers are putting these into the marketplace. We're going to look at the numbers on TrackMan and also give you my feedback on how they feel and how they perform. So let's look at the tech in both of these golf clubs and kind of get a difference in comparison there first. So both of these are hollow heads. So they both create that hybrid concept, which is exactly what you want to be able to get the golf ball up in the air and create ball speed, which is great. The difference in terms of looking at both of these in terms of their tech, we've got Cleveland effectively introducing their high ball technology into an iron that they've had for a while, which is great. But also within the Cobra, we've got their T-Rail, in an old school term, the old baffler rails on the bottom, which really was great technology in their hybrid concept. So what that created was a channel basically for the club to almost slide across the floor and make sure you still make contact when you don't hit the ball first, which is exactly the whole point behind it. In the Cleveland, they don't have that on the bottom. However, they do have a slightly wider sole plate, which creates a very similar sort of thing. So definitely both introducing their own technologies into these. So let's give them a hit. Let's see the difference in terms of the numbers on TrackMan and then give you my feedback on how they feel. Okay, so initially, which do I prefer behind the ball? Now, if I'm brutally honest, they're both very different. So the Cobra's got the black gunmetal finish to it. The Cleveland's got the standard finish you would expect on an iron. In terms of how they look behind the ball, I think I prefer the Cleveland for who they're targeted at. And what I mean by that is the Cleveland looks a slightly bigger head aesthetically. I don't think it actually is, but the face looks slightly bigger. So in terms of how they're performing and the sound off the face, when we look at the Cleveland initially, it's got that standard kind of clicky, hollowy sound that you would expect from a hybrid. Actually feels quite solid, which is good and which I like. If you compare that then to the Cobra, and again, this is going to sound clicky, but it's a louder clicking sound, so it doesn't sound as solid as the Cleveland. So that's going to be a personal preference thing. I think in terms of confidence that you're getting more out of the head, maybe the Cobra has that sound that you feel like you're getting more out of it. I preferred the Cleveland more because it was a bit more of a solid sound, but that's just my own personal preference of what I would like to hear. But in general, they're very different in terms of that sound, so that's a good thing because it gives you two different options, but they're both doing a very similar thing. So head to head, who wins on TrackMan? That's the issue. So when we look at the numbers that they've created, they're both similar-ish as you expect, but interestingly, the Cleveland HB created a little bit more clubhead speed, and that's probably because the shaft's that tiny bit lighter. It's 45 grams rather than necessarily 50 grams. And therefore it created a bit more ball speed off that. The smashes were very similar, spin rates were very similar, the launch on the Cleveland was slightly higher, so we had a 17.2 launch on the Cobra and an 18.3 on the Cleveland. So overall the Cleveland went a tiny bit further by 2 yards. So what that's saying in terms of the numbers is the Cleveland launch is a bit higher, and goes that little bit further because of the slightly lighter shaft, but overall very, very similar numbers, but I think the Cleveland just pips it in that performance in terms of the data. So who wins the comparison between the Cleveland and the Cobra hybrid? So overall, from a feel perspective and a numbers perspective, I did slightly prefer the Cleveland. I thought it was a slightly better product. However, there is a however. One thing I do like about the Cobra is that it's actually a bigger array of options to you in terms of the specifications of the set. You have more hybrid offering at the top end of the golf club rather than hybrid irons, whereas the Cleveland, you don't actually have turbo HB hybrids, you've only got the halo hybrids in terms of potentially looking at the longer irons in that. So Cobra are offering you actually more specifications to choose from. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that the Clevelands are any worse in that perspective. However, they are the Cobra are giving you slightly bit more options in that, which I like. So overall, I think the Cleveland pips it ever so slightly in terms of the performance, the Cobra in terms of the specs, definitely. But as always, you need to try them, you need to get an understanding of exactly what's going to suit your game, so make sure you get custom fit for them. So I've been Tom Denby for Inspire My Golf. I hope you enjoyed that comparison between these two sets. If you did, please hit the subscribe button. Also hit the bell button so you get all the notifications. Leave a comment below, let me know what you thought of it, and if you want me to do any more comparisons, that really helps us to grow the channel. So thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you soon.